Carson City Historic Resources Commission for September 4th, 2024 to order. Brianna, can we have a roll call, please?
Chairperson Drews.
Here.
Vice Chair Schmitter. Commissioner Block.
Here.
Commissioner Darney. Here. Commissioner Spit. Here. Commissioner Spielda.
Here.
Commissioner Wright. A quorum is present.
Thank you. Next item is 3, public comment. Public is invited to address the commission at this time to comment on and discuss any matter that is relevant to or within the historic or the authority of the Historic Resources Commission. We'll also call for public comment after each item. So if you'd like to make public comment now, you can, or wait till the item's called. Is there any public comment? Hearing none, we'll move to item 4 for possible action. We have approval of minutes from the July 3rd, 2024 meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those? We have a motion. Any comments?
I move we approve the minutes from the July 3rd meeting as written by staff.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item number 5, meeting items. 5A, HRC-2024-0311 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding a request to remove and replace an existing mechanical unit and shed on property zoned residential office RO located at 312 West 3rd Street, APN 003-123-04. Heather.
Thank you, Heather Ferris, for the record. The property is located at the southwest corner of South Division Street and West 3rd Street. The property is improved with a 1,536 square foot structure currently used as office space. The structure was built prior to 1875, is 2 stories in height, and reflects the Greek Revival style. The Carson City Resources Inventory identifies several alterations to the building, including the addition of the small lean-to shed at the rear of the building. And that photo in the bottom of the screen has a circle around the specific shed. The applicant is requesting approval to remove the shed that currently supports some mechanical equipment on its roof and replace it with a new shed and mechanical equipment. The footprint of the new shed will be larger, and the applicant is proposing to add a railing feature to help to screen the equipment. Carson City Development Standards Division 5.26 provides guidelines for additions to historic buildings. Staff finds the proposed project to be consistent with the guidelines in that the addition will not destroy significant original historical or architectural material, and if removed in the future, will not impair the essential form and integrity of the building. Staff is recommending approval of the request. I'm available for questions, and Darren Berger is also here representing the project.
Thank you, Heather. Darren, do you have anything to add or any commission member questions of Darren or Heather?
I really don't have anything to add other than it's about ready to fall down. The mechanical unit died on me last year, and I'm only now getting around to replacing it. It's pretty precarious. So when that unit comes off of there, that whatever we're calling it's going to collapse. And I just want to put it back a little bit nicer, a little bit bigger, because it's supporting a mechanical unit that's slightly larger than the one I have. It doesn't look nice. I'd just like to dress it up a little bit, make it look a little cleaner back there. And then there's also a ground-mounted condensing unit that you can see in the other picture, and I want to take that off the ground and put it up next to it and just get that screened and looking a little bit nicer is my intent.
Any questions of Darren? Lou?
So all of the work is on the back of the building, right? Not on the front, so.
Correct.
And the fixtures, the condensing unit and compressor or whatever, are going to be mounted outside on top of a shed? Is the shed enclosed? It's hard to,
Yeah, so the vertical portion of that is the shed. And
the current shed.
yeah,
that-
is the current shed and what's being replaced. So it pretty much looks like that vertical element right now without the horizontal component, which is the railing that goes across. And then there's a column on the left-hand side that would support an elevated deck.
And the things are going on the elevated deck.
The mechanical units, currently, the current mechanical unit sits atop the current shed and just, it's plain as day, unscreened. It looks pretty bad. So my intent is to remove and replace with a new unit right there, because that's where the ductwork is, but then put a railing around it to screen it and almost make it look like a balcony or something. But I want to get it screened and I want it looking nicer.
But the shed's not going to go in front of the windows.
No, it's going between the windows.
There's just going to be a post that supports the other end of that
Correct.
platform.
Yeah. Again, the footprint of that shed, there's a door on the left-hand side of this drawing that can get you in there. And it's handy little space to have. So my intent is to keep that and utilize it. I can stick a lawnmower in there or something. And then the horizontal portion that's supporting the mechanical equipment is really nice because it allows me to get everything up there, out of the way, out of sight. And then it gives me a nice little area back there where I could put a patio or something that's protected from the elements in there.
Any other questions, comments? Is there any public comment on this item? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Before the motion, we normally get a little bit better architectural drawings than, stuff like this.
Well, it's funny you say that because I am so busy, I had to hire somebody to draw this for me. So I take what I can get.
Here's I move to approve HRC 2024-0311, subject to the conditions of approval listed in the staff report, and based on the findings that the request is consistent with the design guidelines for the Historic District and the Secretary of Interior standards as noted in the staff report.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Darren.
Thank you.
Next item, 5B, HRC-2024-0162 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding a request to demolish an existing single-family residence and construct a new single-family residence on property zone single-family 6,000 SF6 located at 709 Elizabeth Street, Assessor's parcel number 003-273-03. Heather.
Heather Ferris again for the record. The request was originally considered by HRC at your May 1st, 2024 meeting. However, the applicant requested the HRC continue the item to allow time to consider alternatives based on the comments received during that meeting. So as a reminder, the subject property is located on the east side of Elizabeth Street, just south of its intersection with West Washington Street. The property is improved with a small 474 square foot single-family residence. Per the survey information, this lot was part of the Phillips Addition subdivision. Individual lots were first sold in this block in 1925. The house was constructed in 1948. And according to the West Side Historic District National Register nomination, the house is not a contributing building. The applicant is requesting approval to demolish the 474 square foot single-family residence and construct a new 2,117 square foot single-family residence. This is the site plan that hasn't changed since you last saw it. Essentially, the footprint would be very similar, if not the same, as what was provided originally. This was the original proposed elevations. Down Demolition of buildings in the historic district is addressed in Carson City Municipal Code, Section 18.06075, and the applicant has provided information to support a finding that the cultural resource does not meet the National Register significance criteria. As I noted earlier, the house is not a contributing building. While the property is located in the district, it is not associated with specific contributing events or persons of national significance. The building is consistent with Depression-era vernacular architecture and does not possess high artistic value, nor does it represent the work of a master or significant entity. Additionally, the application indicates the building is in poor condition. Following the demolition, the applicant proposes construction of the new 2,117 square foot, two-story residence, and I'll get to those new, excuse me. These are the revised elevations since the May meeting. The slides, previous slides show the existing footprint of the building and existing floor plan. The new construction, in the historic district is governed by Division 5.27 of the development standards. There's a detailed analysis in the staff report that analyzes compliance, and we can go over that if you have any questions. A couple of things to note is that the residence would be located in essentially the same location on the lot, and the porch, driveway, and front yard area would be consistent with the current location. There's no sidewalks there currently on either side of Elizabeth Street, but there are concrete walkways that connect the street to the entry. Those features would remain. Proposed roofing and siding material will be similar in appearance to the existing. However, instead of using wood siding, they are proposing to use fiber cement board and fiber cement horizontal shakes, similar to the look of the existing wood siding. The dominant street level feature is the porch, and that would be maintained with the new building. The first floor will be similar to the existing elevation, including the porch, with windows being focused at the entry. Staff was able to find, with the incorporation of the conditions of approval, the applicant's proposal can be consistent with Carson City development standards. This is new construction in the district, not reconstruction of a historic structure. With that, I'm available for questions, and Zach Wood is also here representing the project.
Thanks, Heather. Any questions of Heather?
I have a couple. The elevations in our packet do not match the revised elevations. So are we going by the revised elevation plans?
There should be both in the packet.
Let me
see.
Oh, you're right. Sorry.
Okay.
Is that right? Those are the same. Mine are the same. I don't have the revised plans.
The revised immediately follow the new staff report, page 28 of the packet.
Oh. Okay. There. Okay. So I'm wondering why the change in the windows on the right elevation, the very tiny second-story window and is there somebody that could answer those questions?
Hi, I'm Zach Wood with Resource Concepts. I'm a land use planner representing the applicant, and for now, just to work on the question, and then we'll. present. Hello? Hello? Yep, sorry. Closer. Again, Zach Wood with Resource Concepts on behalf of the applicant. Those, I believe it's the left elevation as described on the revised elevations that has the smaller bathroom windows. That design came from a change in the floor plan as well as the applicant's intention to provide the southerly neighbor with a little more privacy, a comment made at the May meeting. So those bathroom windows are less than the full-size windows that were, I think, part of a bedroom in the first plan set, if that answers the question.
So I'm getting that from the right elevation where she was talking about the upper smaller window that would be on the south side of the structure.
Oh,
That's
pardon
for-
me.
That's, that other window up top is for a new shower in the revised plan, correct, on the second floor?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Block. I made a mistake there. I was looking top left at the left elevation. Yes, the right elevation is the south side of the proposed building.
And the reason for taking out the windows that would have balanced the lower elevation, lower floor? Now there's-
No, the main reason was to eliminate windows just for the floor plan and then just in terms of privacy and I think the southerly neighbor has a second floor, but just eliminates windows on the second floor with views into the rear yard, et cetera, for the neighbor.
Okay.
Could I ask for some clarification? So I'm curious about something. We're approving a demolition of the structure. If I'm correct, and I'm not always even close, so I'm going to let Heather jump on me here. We don't really have, as if we were putting a remodel on something, we don't ask for anybody to either emulate or replicate an historic structure. That's not our purview. So what they're bringing forward for a replacement to a building that doesn't have historical significance, we really don't have purview in the discussion of the replacement building. Am I correct or am I wrong?
No, we have purview over design standard for that building. Needs to be compatible in scale, massing, texture, and everything else in the district.
But I guess what I'm looking for is some of the things that we, when we look at historic, we look at window types, which Jed is bringing up. We look at fences, we look at pathways, sometimes landscaping. I understand that we have purview over, the basics, but not the specifics, correct?
I,
I would disagree with that.
yeah,
I think we
I
have
think
purview
it's,
over
I think
architectural style.
Yeah, scale, massing,
Has to be in
style.
Context. With the adjoining neighborhood, the historic standards for materials and I think architectural use. Things like fences and things like that are kind of subliminal. Those are secondary items. But in this case, because it's being demolished and replaced, if anything else was being built new in the historic district, that would be the same rules. So they'd have to have some context of architecture that we can't come in there with the postmodern 2025 design and stick it right in the middle of the historic district.
The only reason I'm asking for
But no,
clarification.
specifics about window placement, things like that? No, probably not, no.
Okay,
As
I'm
long as
just,
it's got-
because I can't find some of that.
As long
in-
as the historical character of the neighborhood. Otherwise, window placement, how many windows,
Types of
types
windows.
of windows. Now, no, we have purview on types. You can't put aluminum, raw aluminum. Has to be, Mike, correct me on this, but there's certain standards with the windows that they would have to meet.
Again, I'm just looking for clarification so I know how to move forward
But
with
not
my
the
thought
size and
process
shape
on this.
unless it doesn't have character of the context.
If you look at pages 51, 52, and 53, those are some of the ordinances that govern the new construction, things that we can look at. So scale and massing, shape, setbacks, site elements, materials, windows and doors, details and other elements, floor elevation. So we get to look at all that because we don't want a postmodern building built in the district.
I agree with the general, but I was really talking about the specifics. Can we say the window has to be wood, has to be single hung, has to have weights, cords, or is a vinyl window acceptable? Or what type of window? I'm getting more into the specifics than the generalities. I understand that we don't want a modern home in the middle of the historic district with those types of features. I'm just looking for guidance for myself and my thought process.
I think it's all about context. So if all the other buildings in the neighborhood around it had vinyl windows, we can't really make them do double hung, but wood. But if all the buildings around it have wood, then we need to require them to have wood so that it fits into the neighborhood. So we're going to have to look at the other structures in that area to determine what would be appropriate. And I think you also still look at the old building. So you were still talking about going from 474 square foot structure to 2,100 square foot structure, which is pretty big change. And I don't know that they can't do it. I just think it's something to be considered in the way that they style the building to go from tiny to huge. I think it's something we can consider.
Then I guess my point would be, if it has to be in the context of the general buildings around it, and I don't mean to be then the application is incomplete because there should be an inventory of the type of homes that are around it so that we can make that determination if this plan does somewhat emulate those structures that are either adjacent or nearby.
I think that's what staff looks at. So that's what they're looking at for us, is what's the context in which this is being built.
But I couldn't find that in the report or the application.
I don't know if it's something that needs to be defined like that. Being in context is an arbitrary decision in a lot of ways that lands on us.
Would it be helpful if we went through the things that you guys are supposed to be reviewing in 5.27, just step by step and go from there? Start with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So 5.27.1 is scale and massing, and what the code says is the overall size and height of the new building should be consistent with the surrounding buildings. So residents in the area range from 400 square feet to over 2,000 square feet in size. The residences on either side of the subject property are oriented with their front door facing the street and all have similar setbacks of 8 to 9 feet from the front property line, with front yard landscaping extending into the right-of-way. The existing residence is nearly centered in the lot, and the proposed new construction would increase the footprint of that building from 450 square feet to 723.4 square feet. There is an existing 4-foot setback along the north property line, which encroaches 1 foot into the required setback. And there is a setback of 8.6 feet along the west property line, which encroaches into the front setback by 11.4 feet. The new construction would perpetuate these setbacks. However, with that increase in square footage, it would require a variance, which is not within your purview, but it would require a variance for the northern property line and the front yard setbacks due to the expansion in that building footprint. So 5.27.2 is shape, and what code says is the overall shape of the building, particularly its roof type, height, and design emphasis, horizontal or vertical, should be consistent and harmonious with others in the environs. So the existing residence is generally square, and the proposed residence will generally keep that same shape with an increase in overall footprint of the building. The existing residence is single-story, as we've discussed, and the proposed would be 2 stories with a basement below grade. Other structures in the area have second-story features as well, and the proposed residence will have variation in roof lines similar to other properties in the neighborhood. 5.27.3 is setbacks. And what the code says is the front and side yard setbacks for the building should be approximately the same as others in the surrounding area and conform with Carson City Municipal Code Development Standards Division 1, Land Use and Site Design. So as we already discussed, residences in the area range in size from 400 square feet to 2,000 square feet. Similar front setbacks along Elizabeth Street there, with front yard landscaping extending into the right-of-way. As we discussed, the existing residence is essentially centered in the lot, and the new residence would maintain that orientation. However, with that increase in footprint, we would be looking at the need for a variance. If you need me to go over that again, I can. And those are similar to other setbacks in the area. 5.27.4 is site elements, and code says when at all possible, avoid substantial site alterations by importing or exporting fill materials. Generally speaking, vacant lots in the district were once occupied by a building. Attempt to place the new building as near as possible to the same grade as the original. Carefully consider the placement and relationship of the public sidewalk, side and front yard, fences, driveway, gardens, and accessory buildings when determining the location of the new building on the lot. So as we've discussed a couple times, the new building will be located in essentially the same location on the lot with an increase in the footprint. The porch, driveway, and front yard area will be consistent with the current location. Parking is currently achieved with 1 space in the driveway and on-street parking, and that will be perpetuated with this new design. There's no existing sidewalks in the area. However, the applicant will be perpetuating the concrete walkway that connects the street to the entry. The existing front yard landscaping consists primarily of grass and planter areas, and the proposed front yard landscaping will consist of 2 new trees, lawn, and either gravel or pavers adjacent to the street and the house. 5.27.5 is materials, and code says exterior siding should reflect the prevailing style of the neighborhood. A vertical or diagonal style siding should not be used when the dominant style is horizontal drop or shiplap type. The exterior siding should blend in and not stand out. The proposed siding, as we discussed, is fiber cement board with a white fiber cement horizontal shake similar to the siding on the existing residence. Fiber cement board planks are proposed on the gable ends of the house, as well as fiber cement trim. The proposed roofing material will be a gray architectural composite shingle. 5.27.6 is windows and doors. And what code says is that the rhythm and arrangement of the windows and doors should reflect the style of the building design and the predominant patterns found in existing buildings of the area. The ratio of the total surface area of openings to total wall surface area of new buildings should reflect that of the historic buildings in the environs. So staff's analysis it says that the arrangement and ratio of windows and doors are consistent with the patterns of windows and doors in other buildings in the area. And is very similar to the configuration that's found in the current structure, with the focus primarily around the entry. The windows are proposed to be vinyl single hung. 5.27.7 is details and other elements. Trim details are often the single most relevant design feature, which can be utilized to give harmony and compatibility to a new building. If existing buildings have boxed eaves, do not leave rafter tails exposed. If windows and doors typically have fanciful trim, incorporate trim with architectural equal weight. If trim work is typically simple, do not use gingerbread. Seek to design the new building so that the trim and architectural details complement the existing buildings in the area. So again, the dominant street level view of the existing home, as well as other historical buildings in the neighborhood, is the cross gable covered porch. The proposed residence will include a cross gable covered porch entry as well. The proposed roof pitch materials and details of the porch will be consistent with the existing. And then floor elevations is division 5.27.8, and code says the elevation of the first floor in relation to the street and the finished grade of the lot can often be a critical design feature. For example, if surrounding buildings normally have steps leading from street level up to the first floor level, then the new building should have a similar entrance level. As we've discussed a couple times, the first floor of the proposed residence will be in keeping with the existing elevation, including the covered porch, with windows being focused around the entry. Additionally, they're maintaining that walkway from the street to the entry.
Thanks, Heather. And
So is there a little bit of a chicken and an egg? So if they need a variance to do this building, do they go get the variance first and then come to us? Because if they don't get the variance, they're gonna have to redesign the building. And if they come to us first and we say, swell, go get your variance, and they don't get the variance, they have to come back, and we wasted our time approving it in the first place. So, and does planning, when they approve the variance, care that we did or didn't approve it already?
So typically, the Planning Commission does like to know that HRC has reviewed and approved an application before. That being said, the applicant could pursue either one or the other, or could pursue them concurrently. So I don't know if perhaps Zach has any insight as to why they pursued this first, but as far as we're concerned, we're okay either way.
I mean, we really can approve something that needs a variance and doesn't have it?
Yes, because they're not going to be able to build the building or demolish the building until we can, build the building until we approve the variance.
Joan, we ran into this problem on the fourplexes on, was it Division? And, yeah, and actually our decision was appealed because the neighbor said, no, this should have gone to public work or to planning first. And then to us, the Board of Supervisors upheld our decision and said, no, we can approve design first, and then they can go to planning and continue pursuing their application.
It just doesn't seem right that planning could think that we actually liked the size of the building. Just because we approved.
That's something we can discuss. I mean, if we don't like the size, if there's issues with scale and massing, we can discuss that, and if we don't like it, we don't have to approve it. We don't, just because, I mean, looking at any building, you could make it look historic, or you could make it fit within an historic district. But there's other issues that we need to consider. If those don't work, we don't have to approve it. Just because the building looks nice and meets some of our standards doesn't necessarily mean that it's appropriate.
But we also can't just say, we can't approve this because doesn't meet it needs a variance. So.
No, we can't say that because that's not within our purview. But scale, massing, all the items that Heather touched upon are within our purview. If the applicant doesn't meet those standards, we can deny it. We don't have purview over density or other.
Okay, so
variance
it
setbacks,
does
everything
seem,
else.
though, that the only issue that's really out there, maybe I'm misreading it, but is the size and with the variance. And also, I don't understand about the parking. There used to be one on-site and then street parking. With the shortening of the driveway, are you saying that there is no on-site parking?
No, I'm saying that there will be parking, sufficient parking in the driveway and on street.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the shortening didn't take away that space?
That's correct.
Okay, good. I'm done.
Heather, just for my clarification from what you said, and it's not our purview, I get it, because we're demoing a building that's on the property line, not on the property line, not set back far enough, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you did a remodel, that could stay. So on the north side or his left elevation, is the 5-foot setback for a special use permit going to 4? Are they moving it closer to the north property line? Because when you look at the place, you see the brick wall that the neighbor to the north has, and it looks like there's like 2 feet between that and the house.
So according to the site plan, there is 4 feet. Whether or not all improvements on all properties are on the subject properties, like if the neighbors built their fence over the property line, that's something they're going to have to resolve civilly. So that could be the case, is that perhaps there's a rock wall or a brick wall that's over the property line. Based on the information that we have in front of us provided by RCI, we're looking at a 4-foot setback from the existing building. Yeah, so it would require a variance. Exactly.
Just for clarification, Heather, the new elevations that we have and footprint are an addendum to the RCI original submission, right?
That is correct.
Okay, because there's no site plan attached to the new ones. I just wanted
Correct.
to, okay. So we need to refer back and forth between the two to get the full picture. Okay. Lou, do you have a comment or?
I think the design of the front facade is in keeping with the original design of the house, and would fit the neighborhood. So I think you've done a good job trying to get this to match the neighborhood plans. But it's just, I was just a little confused because the windows were not what had been drawn in the one that I was used to looking at, I guess. And they're a little bit, the little teeny one on the upstairs is kind of off-putting to me, but I realize it's for a shower that's, so trying to fit with the design of the interior.
So if my memory serves me, the original application, we had issues with scale and massing. Looking at the new drawings, we've changed the front porch, which fits much better with or ties in more to the old building, but we still have the same scale and massing issue. We still have a slightly bigger footprint. We've got a big 2-story building, 3 if you count the basement, on a lot that has a small single-story house. And to me, that's still an issue. We've changed design a little bit that makes it more compatible, but we still have a scale and massing issue. And there's a huge elm tree in the backyard that actually provide some screening for the neighboring properties. And that's gonna be removed, so now we have a real big property on a small lot. So,
On that, I see that the new roof is a foot down. It's down to 25 feet at the peak. And code, I'm sure, says it can be 25 at the, so far down or whatever. And what you said, Heather, that code allows for vinyl windows in this, did I hear that right? Or we have to approve the vinyl windows?
I did not say either of those. I said they're proposing vinyl windows.
Okay,
In my read of this section of code, it does not talk about windows having to be a specific type.
okay. And that,
for old buildings with wood windows, in the historic district, we prefer wood windows. For new construction, it's like cement siding and everything else. If the texture is compatible, the look is right, we can differentiate between old and new that way. But
and to.
it's not by code.
And to what you were saying, the massiveness of it, because it is on such a small lot, it's 4 feet away from the other property line. That's not, we don't care about that. But when we talked about it, we talked about some really cool things on small houses where you could bring the ceiling height down, or you could do a pitch ceiling in the second floor going up, where your overall height of the building is not 25 feet. And, you know, to be, you know, to be 4 feet away or 9 feet away from the other building to the north, and you're still 25 feet up, it seems like a lot. To the building to the south, you have the driveway and everything there. There's some room in there where the north side isn't. And I think it's just you're putting virtually, without the basement, a 1,400 square foot house, and you're getting it closer to everything else. I just, you know, when we talked in the last meeting about maybe having dormer windows up there, bringing the roof height down and doing dormers and making it look like it's not so massive, but still be able to have that much of a footprint. Because, you know, it's like when my arduous project over my garage, the walls start at 4 feet and go up because you've got that high pitch. They don't start at 8 feet and go up. So I think the height is one of my concerns.
I think I'd like to call for public comment now. I know the Smiths are neighbors and probably like to say something.
Yeah, Chair, this is Zach with Resource Concepts. There was the opportunity to clarify questions from the commissioners, which we answered a simple question. If possible, we'd ask that we can make our presentation and talk about the revision and some of the things that we think were in keeping with the last meeting. So if I can have that opportunity, or also allow the applicant to comment at this time, that's our request.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that first, Zach.
Okay, thank you. And thanks again to the commission from the meeting in May. I know that we requested a continuance and the commission granted that so that we could bring back more information. So I do appreciate that we were able to continue consideration of the project and bring this back to you. Yes, at the last meeting, we did obviously hear that the scale and mass of the building was the primary concern from the commission, many comments to that effect. In discussion, our team looked at alternatives, and more or less those alternatives we have discussed and provided analysis for in our original application, which is if other discretionary actions are not approved, then there are required alternatives at that point, which is either the building footprint would shrink because a variance would not be approved, or the building height would shrink because a use permit would not be approved to expand the existing floor area. I recall that it was staff that recommended to bring the HRC application first. I would agree with that as a professional planner, because it's always better to start as local as you possibly can with projects and work work at the closest level to the neighborhood. And then if you need to go to a planning commission or other meetings, you've at least started with the folks that are closest to the issue. It can be done concurrently. It can be done with asking for a variance first, but we have to pick a course of action. This is the one that we've chosen, and we think we've chosen the right venue because obviously there's a lot of interest and passion for this subject matter. So I think that always increases the quality of the projects overall compared to if you go into a planning commission meeting and just discuss use permits or variances. Those don't often lead to a great improvement in quality of projects for 5 feet here, 3 feet there for a variance. But we are sensitive to how close this lot is. So quick anecdote, I think above and beyond in terms of what I think the overall goal of the project is to repopulate this district. I work in it all the time. My family's all been here, staying down the street on Minnesota. And my number one comment when they said, hey, this downtown's great, what's going on? I said, well, it's basically a daytime population of workers. There's not enough people that live in the neighborhood, and by 5 o'clock, it's very quiet unless things are happening. This project brings people back to this particular property and this street, and by extension, the district. So I think that's what I see, from afar. I'm just representing the project and have a small vested interest as a local daytime worker. But Billy is a competent general contractor. The applicant builds good things. I think he will describe that his interest here is to build a residence for his family to reside in. And above and beyond, their number one goal is to have the best possible residence for themselves. And I'll let, hopefully, Chair, if it's okay, I'd like Billy to be allowed to make a few comments if he wants to. So back to the substance. This revision adds a few elements, even though we did stick with the exact same footprint, exact same floor plan overall mass, because those alternatives, as you start to reduce the project down to only require a building permit and not a variance and not a use permit, you really don't have a livable second floor with the requirements to have stairways accessing the second floor. So there are some real livability issues that the applicant considered, and we brought back alternatives more or less to floor plan and exterior design than true building mass. But we'd be happy to discuss those. On the exterior, I think the number one feature is, I'm going to call it a double shed roof. So the addition of the cross gable that has the both roof pitches, pitching to the front. That is in keeping with this house's existing roof pitches historical, where of course the new pitch got added on, and that's in the back, so it's not an immediate feature from the street. But now that roof pitch is additionally complementary to the existing building. I know one of our design goals was to bring as many of the cool features of this small house forward, the front porch, the simple gable roof. Now we've got the double gable pitch. Now there's more roof complexity, so that's breaking up that strong front end gable feature. And then I think, especially for complementary to the neighborhood, although the porch is very small, you might be able to throw a chair, a little bistro table on it. Having that second floor balcony really creates a space where someone can, be covered out of the weather, be up front, at least be somewhat accessible to the neighborhood space. And that's a new feature for the revision. Bottom line, we agree with the staff's recommendation to the commission. We would hope that, understanding that there are multiple pathways still for this project, including discretionary use permits and variances, that the overall character of the building, the styling is meant to fit the district. And I think, there's lots of examples around, and immediately in the neighborhood, no matter which block you're on, I believe in the district, it's kind of hard to find stuff that's very complementary, lot by lot, house by house, shoulder to shoulder. There's a lot of variability. And the one thing that I think we pointed out in May, and I still think is true, is we're at the very northern edge of the district. The district transitions basically away from any historic structures and values as you cross north over Washington Street. There's some very large buildings there. I know they're all in commercial in different zones, but the comparison of buildings to surrounding buildings, yes, you can do an analysis just on the street, but even on the street, we pointed out that there's buildings of different size, and especially in the immediate block or two away vicinity, there's some very large buildings. So the district has to change at its edges. It's not a single unit of buildings, but that's just a comment, because I think, yeah, some of these are some subjective standards, and especially in context of the neighborhood. I think we did originally just point out that there are second floor buildings. The mass, especially in a 3D sense, is controlled by the zoning. So what you get within the box is the regulatory mass. And I think in trying to keep with forms, especially roof forms and second floor and treatments, we're doing a pretty good job in our opinion. So I'll just wrap my comments up there. Again, thank you very much for the continuance. We want to have a good project that is complementary. We believe we do. We agree with the staff's recommendation, and if you have the opportunity, and Billy would like to, I don't want to put him on the spot. That's my comments. Thanks again.
Thank you, Zach. Before we move on, I'm just looking at the front elevation right now. And I do like the way you integrated that shed roof in front. I think that helps bring down that front facade a little bit. What I'm having trouble with is that second story roof line in the back. And what if we made that more of a hip roof than just with the single gable? Just do a double hip on that. I think that might take some of that mass out of the top.
Mike, when you got a moment, I got a couple things. Go ahead, finish.
No, that's, I was just penciling that in, and I think it helps.
Get me out here on the island.
Yeah.
Can I add a couple things?
Go ahead.
Overall, architecture-wise, materials-wise, I don't have any problems with this. I think the only issues I'm going to have, I'm not even sure I have any problems with the massing at the ground level. It's the two-story massing, I think, that bothers me. Getting the variance for acquiring that extra space on the ground, I get that, I see that, but having that mass go two-story equally, as far as it being extrusion from the ground, I think is a problem for me. I'd like to see more undulation, set the masses set back, not straight up from the ground. If there's a way, and my feeling is, this isn't our purview, I get that I don't see how 2 stories getting that much variance is going to happen. My guess will be we'll be seeing this again. And saying that, if that's the case, I would like to see that second floor have some shifting of masses so that they're not straight up and down extrusions from the ground. I also don't particularly care for the solid wall on that balcony. I think that really is not in character with the architecture of the style of that particular piece. But the balcony itself is fine. That's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Rob. Billy, would you like to address the commission? Here.
Yeah, we're just trying to,
You need to, for the record, state who you are and what your
oh,
relationship.
Billy Cyphers, and I'm the applicant. And we were just trying to accommodate the neighbors and different things that we did. Um, So we set back the upstairs balcony so it wouldn't be straight up and down. We turned the roof and they got rid of the windows on the upstairs. And so, I don't know, we definitely need a two-story. So I don't think anything, I think anything you do is still gonna look pretty, you know, obtrusive.
Any other commission member questions?
I just have a comment because we're talking about what's in our purview. And when Zach was talking about buildings and such across from Washington Street, that's not really in our purview. It's not in our district, so with the exception of the Adams House, that's not something we should consider. And just looking at this subject property, and you look at the two houses to the direct west, they're all about the same size. One had that big apple tree that fell over in Washington. So those two all three of those were fitting at one point in time within the district, whether it's 3 blocks from my house or 4 blocks from Zach's office. Those were all fitting in there, and it's a period of time. And when we talk about the West Side Historic District by the National Parks Service, that it's not a contributing element, is there like the Catholic Church, is it still a contributing element in the Carson City Historic District? And that's where I need your historical perspective.
I don't know within our historic district if we designate contributing or non-contributing. In the National Register, they do. And if it's I mean, there's a variety there's decades of overlap in the district, and things are appropriate or not. When we did the nomination, this one was considered non-contributing because it really doesn't fit with the larger context. Is there any public comment? Ed?
Hello, Ed Smith, resident 701 Elizabeth Street, which is immediately south of the proposed project, and my wife.
I'm Kathy Smith, and we live, if you're looking at the,
Right elevation.
yeah, the right elevation is what we'd be facing, so.
For my comments on it, it's a mixed bag on it, Mike. The loss would be one, a tree that even though it's on the adjacent property, is a substantial part of our landscape. It's a 3-foot diameter giant American elm on that provides shade and a lot of atmosphere for our backyard on it. The other bad or downside on it is putting a 25-foot tall house 5 feet from our fence in just this mass. Okay, with that said, there are pluses, because right now it's a dilapidated fire hazard waiting to happen. The yard is a patch of weeds. It's an accumulation of junk in the backyard. We were just there today on it. And this, whatever you did with this would still be better than the existing view we get from our second-story house at what's there now on it. That's pretty much my 2 cents worth.
I actually like it. I think the balcony will add some depth, which will kind of break up like a more or less a flat facade. So I think that will add a lot of personality to it. We do have a 2-story house on just to the south of Billy's place. And our other neighbor who couldn't be here, Gayla McDonald, she also has a 2-story house. Now, our second-story additions are in the back because our lots are a little bit deeper, but it's not inconsistent by having a second story on that lot. I see the point about the hip structure. You know, it does look obtrusive in a way, the front elevation, when you're looking at it on the right-hand side. But I think it's going to be gorgeous. And so I'm looking forward to something happening, and I'd like it to happen really soon. So that's it.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Commissioners want to weigh in on that hip, or do we like does the design work okay?
I just have one comment with Commissioner Darney. I understand what he's talking about with articulation, that you're going straight up. But I do look at the way that it's designed, that it is on the south side, and now it will be a vertical wall. It is actually, the way the windows are done, provide a lot of privacy to the Smith's residence next door. If we look at the front of it, though it doesn't have the articulation that maybe we'd like to see, there will be a sense of articulation with the 2-foot setback between the living room front door and the dining room windows. And then also we're going to get a sense of that articulation with the balcony. We're going to see that recess back, that other 5 feet 9 inches. So it's close to an 8-foot articulation from the front wall to the back. It's a very tight site. It's a tiny home. And I think they've actually done a fairly decent job with that. And I look at, we keep saying a 4-foot and a 5-foot setback. It's 8 feet on the Smith side. Plus, I think from the back wall of your home to the fence has got to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 to 20 feet. And then the 8 feet to the house. And then on the other side, on the north side, we've got the 4-foot setback. And then the distance of about 10 feet from that house, the house to the north to the property line. So they're not 4 feet away. We're not handing a cup of tea out the window. I think it's for the lot and to be able to clean it up, I think they've done a pretty good job.
The site plan does require removal of that American home, correct?
Yes, it does indicate that that would be removed.
Is there something we can replace it with? I mean, it is a dominant, when you drive by, it's a pretty dominant feature back there. And I think the original report said it was an old dead dying cottonwood, and it's definitely not an old dying cottonwood. Looks like American elm. It's in pretty good shape. And we do have purview over landscape elements, so I think that might be something we want to consider.
Yeah, if you'd like me to comment, Chair. Zach Wood for the applicant. And right now, the only landscaping elements for new trees that we have on the plan are in the front yard. So we're not showing really any landscaping detail, side yard, backyard. I would expect, if I checked with the applicant, having a condition and tree planting would be acceptable. The reason for the likely, and this is coming from a contractor that's worked around these kind of constraints, the likely need to remove the tree is the building is going to move closer to the tree. There's significant excavation with the basement plan. And I think the damage has already been done, so some of that roof on the existing house, I think, took a knock from a tree limb. So those kind of risks, I think, are some of the reasons why the applicant's just kind of going with tree removal right now as the default. And if you'd like me to, we can check with that. I know that might be the only detail in terms of the landscaping that's not in the front yard that we would be able to commit to. Anything else with the landscape treatment or lawn or something, I think that's all to be determined, but we'd be happy to discuss trees, absolutely.
Ask one question about that. In my background, 8 feet you always plant a tree for its mature size, not the size that it's delivered in. In 8 feet, that tree next to a basement is going to present some future problems in 20 years. Would it be possible to request that the applicant discuss this issue with his next door neighbors, the Smiths, to see if maybe a tree could be placed on their side of the property line that's acceptable, that would give the root area a better chance to grow, and you could put a tree similar to a London plane tree that would provide the appropriate shade in about 10, 15 years, but the tree doesn't have to be killed because it's tearing up a foundation. So it's kind of like asking the two of you to work together to replace something that you can both enjoy.
I have a comment on trees. When I had that tree removed at my office 20 years ago, it was growing right up in the building, and we had a field trip to go check it out, and it was an old cottonwood. I see the biggest problem in the district with these old trees is they're not maintained, and they become big sales. You can see where the two 36-inch branches fell on the 3rd and 2nd floor of the Bliss Mansion, and probably would have taken that out. The volunteer that was over at the Brewery Arts Center, that big black maple, there's one thing we got to remember: when that tree was planted, the water table was probably 3 feet below, and the roots are probably going pretty far. So I'm not too concerned about the construction taking out the roots and doing that. But if the tree's not maintained, it's just a big sale. And just to the east of that subject property in the backyard, I think it was 2 years ago, a giant maple tree was taken out of there. And I don't know if anybody saw that or before it was gone. But those trees were probably planted at the same time. But, to plant an appropriate tree, that would be great. Do we need to, because trees are in our purview or landscaping, do we require an arborist to come out and tell us about the condition of the tree and or if it needs to be groomed, manicured, trimmed?
I don't know, I mean, if we're approving plans to take that tree out for construction purposes, I don't know that we need to go down that path. But putting a condition on the approval to work with the neighbors on location of a suitable tree or something to that effect might cover it. Ed, are you opposed to a tree?
Talk about it, I'm afraid we'll both be dead before there's any,
Yeah.
any value reaped from this effort.
A tree and an umbrella. Any other commission member questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve HRC-2024-0162 as presented and subject to the conditions of approval included in the staff report.
A motion, do I have a second? Motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with the project as presented. Thanks for coming back, Zach, Billy, and thanks for your comments, Ed and Kathy. And good luck. It's a postage stamp that takes a lot of work.
I think Zach needs to know that 4 people on this board live in the district. It's not dead at night.
But it is by 10.
Yeah, thanks again, commissioners. And what I expect is as we continue to work with the city on further applications, I can check back in as your meetings continue and let you know about progress. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Heather, if the planning commission has some concerns or other conditions that would require a change to this, it has to come back to us?
If it would alter the exterior design, it would definitely have to come back to you. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you all. Next item is 6, staff reports. Heather.
So some of you were talking before the meeting. So if you haven't seen it yet, the Brewery Arts Center has painted the steeple on the church, so it is now white. We have received an application from them regarding the removal of the cross from the steeple. However, they are also working on the issue of the louvers. So they've decided to put that application on hold until such time as they can get both items before you, expected in November at your November meeting. And with that, the next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, November 6th.
Thank you. Is there any commission member reports or comments?
In the evening.
As of now, yes, that is the plan.
Yeah, thanks to Bill Miles, the steeple's white. I have a question for you, Heather. Back on the May meeting, we approved windows for the duplex and the threeplex on Division and Robinson Street, and those windows have been replaced. And we had in here in the motion to try to replicate the Lamb's Tongue and not Low-E, but those weren't satisfied. Was that an admin approval? Did they come back to you, Mike, on that?
I would have to double check on that. I cannot remember. I can certainly email you and let you know the status of that.
Yeah, that didn't come before me as another item, so. Any other commission member reports?
I just wondered what was happening at the Ferris Mansion.
We're working through the issues there through code enforcement. They have not come before you with an application. They have been doing work outside, installing pavers, and there's some other issues, broken windows and such. As I understand it, we had our code enforcement officer out there earlier this week, and she indicated that some of the issues have been resolved, but there's still some outstanding issues. So we're going to continue down that path of enforcement, and hopefully we'll get an application for the commission to consider.
Well, and as of Sunday, the skid steer statuary went away as well, so, and they're a big giant pile of dirt.
Any other commission member reports, comments, future items? I guess hopefully Ferris Mansion and Brewery Arts Center. I guess that's it. Is there any public comment? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.